No one expected him to say it. For years, Heughan and Caitriona Balfe had built one of the most captivating on-screen relationships in modern television. A love story that transcended fiction and bled quietly into real life. They had spent nearly a decade together on set, growing up in the same world, breathing life into Jamie and Claire Fraser. Two souls forever bound by destiny. And yet, behind that chemistry, behind the cameras, something far more complicated lived between them. When Sam finally spoke about his future with Caitriona, the world held its breath. Fans who had shipped them for years, through red carpets, interviews, and countless behind-the-scenes clips, had always believed there was something unspoken. "They don't even need to act," one fan once wrote. "You can feel it." That unspoken connection became a global obsession. But Sam had never truly addressed it. Until now. It started innocently enough. A magazine interview, a casual question about Outlander's next season, and whether he saw himself working with Caitriona again in the future. He smiled at first, that familiar Scottish charm softening his features, but then his expression changed, quieter, more thoughtful. His answer was not the usual rehearsed line about friendship or teamwork. Instead, he said something that no one expected. "We'll always be connected," he said softly, "but sometimes, love changes its shape." The interviewer blinked, unsure whether to probe further. The room, once filled with light chatter, fell silent. That single sentence sent shockwaves through the fandom. A confession wrapped in metaphor, a truth hidden behind carefully chosen words. Within hours, social media erupted. #Sam and Kate trended worldwide. Was this his way of saying goodbye? Or was it his way of finally admitting that what they shared was real, just different now? To understand that moment, you have to go back to where it all began. When Sam and Caitriona first met during auditions for Outlander, their connection was immediate, raw, easy, electric. Even the producers later admitted that no one else came close to their chemistry. They laughed through long shooting days, comforted each other through emotional scenes, and became each other's anchor when fame began to blur the lines between work and real life. But fame came with a cost. Every look, every smile, every hug was analyzed by millions. Their friendship became a headline, their silence became proof, and their loyalty to one another was constantly questioned. When Caitriona announced her marriage in 2019, some fans refused to believe it, claiming it was a cover story to protect privacy. Others accused Sam of hiding his heartbreak. Through it all, he remained the same, kind, loyal, and silent. He never denied the rumors, but he never fed them either. In one interview years ago, when asked about their relationship, he smiled faintly and said, "She's one of the most important people in my life. That's all I'll say." Now, his latest words felt different, like the closing of a chapter, or perhaps the rewriting of one. Insiders close to the production described their relationship as deeply personal. They said Sam and Caitriona shared a kind of mutual understanding that went beyond romance, an emotional shorthand built through years of portraying love, loss, and resilience together. "They read each other like a book," one crew member once said. Sometimes they didn't even need to speak, just a look across the set, and they knew exactly what the other was thinking. But what happens when the lines blur too much? When the love you perform begins to echo in the quiet corners of your real life? For Sam, that question had lingered for years. Every interview about Caitriona carried weight. Every silence carried a story. And now, when he finally spoke about the future, fans sensed it wasn't about the show. It was about something deeper. He didn't confirm a romance, and he didn't deny it either. Instead, he spoke in the language of people who have loved deeply and learned painfully. "There are people," he continued in the same interview, "who will always walk beside you, even if life takes you down different paths." It wasn't a scandal. It wasn't gossip. It was heartbreak, maturity, and gratitude, all in one breath. As the interview ended, Sam looked away for a moment, almost as if he had said too much. Then, with that calm half-smile that has melted hearts for years, he added one last line that left fans in awe. "Whatever comes next, Caitriona will always be part of who I am." No denial, No clarification. Just truth, quiet, complicated, and achingly beautiful. And for the first time in years, the silence between them finally had meaning. When the interview clip went viral, the world seemed to stop for a moment. Fans replayed Sam's words over and over, dissecting every pause, every breath, every hint of emotion in his eyes. "We'll always be connected." It wasn't just a statement, it was a quiet confession that carried the weight of 10 years of history, friendship, and something that perhaps neither of them ever fully named. For Caitriona, the words must have reached her like an echo from a time long gone. She was in the middle of promoting another project when journalists began asking what she thought about Sam's emotional revelation. She smiled, the same calm, graceful smile that had become her armor, and said, "Sam and I have shared something truly special for a long time. That will never change." It wasn't denial. It wasn't confirmation. It was her way of protecting something sacred. Behind that professional composure, insiders whispered that the two had spoken privately soon after. No grand confrontation, no tearful farewell. Just an honest conversation between two people who had lived through too much together to pretend anymore. The call reportedly lasted hours. Laughter mixed with long silences. And when it ended, both seemed lighter. For years, their bond had been shaped by circumstance, long filming days, emotional scenes, and the relentless pressure of the spotlight. They were each other's refuge when fame became suffocating. Caitriona once said, "There's comfort in having someone who truly knows what this life costs." Sam was that person for her. And she, for him, was the one who kept him grounded when everything around them became noise. But the truth was, they were never just Jamie and Claire. They were two real people who had grown, evolved, and chosen different lives. Caitriona found love and stability in her marriage. Sam sought purpose in his craft, his businesses, and his quiet, reflective life. Still, their connection, that rare, unspoken understanding, never faded. When asked later in another interview about what the future holds, Sam hesitated, then said, "The future. I think it's about gratitude. About carrying the people who shaped you, even if they're no longer walking beside you." The way he said it felt like a message meant for one person, not for the audience in front of him. Caitriona's response came weeks later during a podcast interview. When the host mentioned Sam's quote, she paused and laughed softly. "He's always been poetic," she said. "But yes, I think we've both grown up a lot together. That's what happens when you share a story for this long, it becomes part of you." The room fell silent for a moment. She looked away and added quietly, "I'm proud of him. Always will be." It wasn't dramatic or scandalous. It was real, two people acknowledging that some connections don't need labels or explanations, they just are. As the final season of Outlander began production, the atmosphere on set reportedly felt different. More nostalgic, more fragile. Both Sam and Caitriona seemed to carry an unspoken awareness that this chapter, the one that had defined them for a decade, was nearing its end. Between takes, they were seen laughing, reminiscing, sometimes standing in silence as if soaking in every detail for the last time. Crew members described moments that never made it to camera. Sam brushing a tear from Caitriona's cheek after a particularly emotional scene. Caitriona whispering, "You'll always be my favorite co-star," before walking off set. Those who witnessed it said it felt less like acting and more like goodbye. But it wasn't a sad goodbye. It was full of respect, tenderness, and a quiet kind of love that doesn't fade with distance. When filming wrapped, Sam posted a photo of them together, arms around each other, smiling in the golden Scottish light. The caption was simple. "A decade of laughter, love, and memories. Thank you, Kate, always." Caitriona reposted it hours later with a heart emoji and the words, "Forever proud of what we created together." It was the closure fans didn't know they needed, and the confirmation that their story, though never romanticized the way people imagined, was far more beautiful in truth. In a later interview, Sam reflected on what Outlander, and Caitriona, had meant to him. His voice was soft, thoughtful. "People ask if we'll ever see each other the same way again. I think we've already seen the best of each other. That's what makes it special. We don't need a future defined by labels. We just need to know that, somewhere out there, the other person is cheering us on. That's the kind of love that doesn't end, it transforms. It becomes friendship, respect, legacy. And maybe that's why fans around the world continue to believe in them. Not because they expect a romance, but because they've witnessed something rarer. Two souls who met in fiction and stayed connected in reality, even when the cameras stopped rolling. In the end, Sam Heughan didn't need to announce a relationship or a future. He already said everything in one simple truth. Whatever comes next, Caitriona will always be part of my story. And that, more than any headline or rumor, is what love, real love, truly sounds like.